Martin, it's all psychological. You yell barracuda, everybody says, huh? What? You yell shark, we've got a panic on our hands on the 4th of July.
You're going to need a bigger boat.
All right, people. It's the beginning of Shark Month. That's right. You didn't ask for it, so we're giving it to you.
Hold on to your surfboards.
Oh my God! Really? you probably like, God, I got a good one for this opening. Is that what you came up with?
That's cracker.
That's cracker. Yeah, we talk masterpieces a couple times in this podcast. It's very hard to be a masterpiece, crossing your T's and dotting your I's to perfection. We talked about that with It's a Wonderful Life. We talked about that with Die Hard. In my eyes, this is. We talked about that with Psycho. We haven't talked about it yet, but Shawshank Redemption.
Citizen Kane?
We certainly talked about it. No, Citizen Kane's not a masterpiece to me. But it is to many others. And we talked about it with Raiders of the Lost Ark. Those are the films I consider to be masterpieces in my eyes. And Jaws is certainly one of them. So if you guys I'm going to try to find a flaw. If I'm going to try to find something like, I got to not like something, I can't do it. Jaws is fucking a masterpiece. Not only is it the first film to be coined the summer blockbuster in 1975, it is $7 million budget. It ended up being a little bit over because of the shark issues. Ended up making 477 worldwide.
And still making money, no doubt.
Yeah. And what better day to kick off Shark Month than with the 50th anniversary of this gem of a film. This is going to be a great podcast. It's going to be easy to talk about a film that I have seen more times probably than Halloween. It's a film that we are taught in school and through all different levels. We've seen Jaws, Psycho, Singing in the Rain, and Bridge on the River Kwai are some of the go-to films that you watch religiously in school. But yeah, I can't count how many times I've seen this film. Every time I watch it, I catch something new. And I did for this podcast, some stuff I missed, which I couldn't believe I missed. But it was certainly fun revisiting, which I revisit this film all the time. Jaws.
I think it's really overrated, and I think it's pretty poor. No, I'm only joking.
Yeah.
No, I would say that you ask people to point out flaws there. You might get someone sort of, I don't know, email or whatever, saying something along the lines of, yeah, but the shark looks fake. You know what? I have never had an issue with the shark. I have always ran with it, and I don't see the issue. I know Spielberg himself has even apparently had issues with it, but it works for me, and it always has done.
Well, the funny thing is, the shark story, the shark is pretty much the thorn in Spielberg's paw. And it kept breaking. And not to disrespect Spielberg, but I think Spielberg would even admit this. And I think this is kind of funny. And I could be wrong, but it makes sense. So he brought in John Williams to score it. And he actually laughed at the score. He didn't like it. He goes, what's with the score? This is not going to work. But the funny thing is, with the shark breaking down, the score ended up working because the score becomes pretty much the shark.
Yes.
And so, two kind of faux pas there on Spielberg. Spielberg didn't like the original score until he realized his shark wasn't working. Bruce the shark, by the way, if anyone doesn't know that. And so when Bruce kept breaking down, he decided, fuck it, we're not going to show the shark. We're just going to, let people use their imagination, seeing, is it really a shark that's underneath the ocean here? And then he complemented it with John Williams' score, and that's what makes the legacy of Jaws, is the score and not seeing the shark.
I would say as well, apparently Spielberg is on record as saying the shark malfunctioning was a godsend because it then had to be essentially kept in the shadows. Spielberg has also admitted that he was pretty naive by wanting to shoot this entire film out in the ocean, not taking into consideration Mother Nature, because he was only like 26 or so at the time. And apparently, well, that contributed to the shark breaking as well. But apparently, it was a rough shoot, to say the least. Apparently, there was a lot of problems because most films up to that time, which were set in the ocean, were basically filmed on a set or basically a big pool, in a Hollywood studio type thing.
Yeah. But you know what? In watching this now, man, I'll tell you what. It's fucking amazes me. Practical.
Oh, the whole way.
And the work and the effort that went into the team that made this film. And a guy, his name escapes me, who worked on the shark, and all the team that worked on it. The one thing you couldn't hear in Spielberg's mouth, unless it was an audio thing, was, well, we'll just fix it in post. And that's what Hollywood does now. Let's just fix it in post. We'll CGI it. We'll do this and this. And maybe that's a good thing. You CGI as minimal as you can to help clean up stuff. I get that. But when you watch all these Marvel films that are done just on a green screen now, and then you see these bastards in the middle of the ocean trying to get this mechanical shark to work. We talked about this with George Miller, Commando film shooting, where you just go for it. Now, this was a big studio at Universal, so little more support than what the guys had on Mad Max. But the idea is the same. You improvise as you go. And I'll tell you what, 477 worldwide, one of the most beloved films of all time. 3 Oscar wins, best score for John Williams, best sound, best editing. Shocked, and I'm watching this again today, I'm shocked that Robert Shaw wasn't nominated for Best Supporting Actor.
Yeah, and I was also going to say, one of the great things that people don't always talk about Jaws that really sells it and really makes it a great film, and not just a great summer blockbuster, but as the characters and the writing and performance of the characters, especially obviously the 3 main characters, of Brody, Shaw, and Hooper. Rob Quint, Robert Shaw's character.
Yeah. Well, let's jump into that now. Let's jump into the cast here, very minimal. Roy Scheider is Chief Brody. Richard Dreyfuss is Hooper. Robert Shaw is Quint. Lorraine Gary is Ellen. Another scene stealer. He's the guy we love to hate. We've talked to him a couple times. Murray Hamilton plays Vaughn. Jeffrey Kramer is Hendrix. And a little shout out, very small role, but powerful role. Lee Ferrero, who just passed away. She plays Mrs. Kintner.
Yes.
And a massive shout out to Chrissy. She also just played Susan Backliney. I'm sorry if I'm butchering that. She just passed herself. She is Chrissy, the opening scene.
Yes.
Of Jaws. Let's before we get going here, this is Spielberg's pretty much second major motion picture. How Spielberg worked, he was a TV kid.
Yes.
Columbo, Night Gallery, a lot of TV shows. Then he ended up doing a TV movie that was so good. This is what made him. Was so good in the U.S. And the U.S. was shocked we didn't release it into theaters. A U.K. team decided we're not going to put this on TV. This needs to go in the theaters.
Yeah.
So it's technically not a theater production, but that movie was called Duel. You guys should see it. We'll definitely get to it. We'll probably do like road chase movies or something.
Yeah.
And we'll certainly get to it. But he did another movie right before Jaws called Sugarland Express. A lot of people don't know it. It's quite fun with Goldie Hawn. Guys should check it out. It is pretty much a road movie. A couple of outlaws being chased down by cops. It's pretty fun, actually. You guys should check it out. And then obviously we got Jaws. And to this day, even all the movies he has made, I would say Jaws or Raiders.
Well, I mean, it's hard.
The different films.
Yeah.
Different films.
It's hard to compare Jaws with Raiders of the Lost Ark and then Schindler's List or Catch Me If You Can, So, another great thing about Spielberg is, although he's a sci-fi nerd guy, at heart, a kid at heart, he's done the serious stuff as well, and he's always spread his wings.
Yeah, a good filmmaker can do that and branch out and do different genres. A guy can even see that with Carpenter. Carpenter's done that himself.
Yes, I know. Yeah.
And so, yeah, it's easily my top filmmakers are very open to other genres. and not just label themselves to one.
Yeah.
Based on the book by Peter Benchley, he made a fortune off this.
I would like to think so.
He made a fucking fortune.
He also wrote the script here, or part of it anyway.
Yeah, Carl Gottlieb, I believe. He's also in the film.
Yes.
He also wrote it. He's also a producer and director. I think he even passed not too long ago. But we have just a really great team, and we got a small cast, which I really like. And you mentioned it there a second ago. The good thing about a small cast, there's going to be better chemistry there because you're not peppering all these extras and stuff.
Absolutely.
And so, and you're on more screen time with them. So the chemistry is definitely going to show. And it definitely shows with Jaws. We are going to jump into it. I know I said that about 25 minutes ago, but this is Jaws. It's the 50th anniversary, so fuck off. We're taking our time.
Yeah. I would say as well, you're talking about the chemistry. I suppose you could call it between Dreyfuss and Robert Shaw anti-chemistry, because apparently they fucking hated each other on set. And Robert Shaw was apparently drunk for a lot of the shoot, but that totally worked. Again, another sort of godsend, as Spielberg would have said, because the two characters hit each other, so that tension in real life is played out on the screen between the characters and worked so well.
Yeah, I heard about that with Robert Shaw and our boy Dreyfuss. It's kind of like that Oliver Reed, Betty Davis story we talked about not too long ago with Burnt Offerings.
Yes. Robert
Shaw was part of that Brat Pack with Oliver Reed and with Peter O'Toole and Richard Harris.
Yeah,
There's a history there.
He was one of those sort of hard-drinking, tough guy actors that we don't really see as much of these days. I mean, obviously we've had people like Russell Crowe and stuff, but yeah, he was a sort of old-school sort of Hollywood tough guy.
Yeah. I saw him. After Jaws, I saw him in one of his last films, and I fucking love it. It's with Harrison Ford, of course, and Carl Weathers, and Richard Kiel.
What's it called?
And it's called Force 10 from Navarone.
Yes, I know it, and I think I might have watched it on TV a long time ago. But yes, I know of it, but I wouldn't be familiar enough with it. Yeah,
it's a good film. I've seen it quite a few times. But yeah, that was one of his last films.
Yeah.
All right, now we're jumping into it.
At last, like we're like halfway through what would be a normal podcast. You know, we're finally getting there.
Okay. Let's talk about the introduction to our boy Bruce. I'm going to be calling Jaws as Bruce. That was his stage name. Well, no, his real name.
Right. Apparently there was more than one Bruce.
What?
There was more than one Bruce. Like, you know.
Well, the main Bruce is in Universal Studios.
Yeah.
That features more of the whole body.
Right.
And then there's like half Bruce and whatever. Anyways, you know, an introduction to film, anything that just really just grabs you. And boy, does Jaws do it. And to this day, I will tell you right now, and I love my horror and I love my gore, but this is still to this day, one of the most unsettling opening sequences of all time. And what sells it, not only does the score bring you in, but the young actress who I just mentioned, Susan Bacalini, who plays Chrissy, small cameo in the beginning of the film. She sells it so well that this poor girl is being eaten alive. All the way, her screams just echo, and it's terrifying. The scene where she's just swimming around and she's kind of goofy and laughing at herself because she's still drunk, and then she gets bobbed under, and then she pops back up, and she's almost having like a panic attack.
Yes,
and she's losing her breath, and then moments pass, she gets bobbled up again, and then she's getting more anxiety, like she's being nibbled on. It's terrifying, and then it just rips into her, and you can hear her scream as she's screaming for help. Well, even I just finished it. It still is a terrifying opening scene to this day.
Yeah, I mean, it sets it up as a horror film opening. I know there's a lot more to Jaws than simply a horror film. You know, it sort of jumps across, you know, various genres, including, you know, adventure. But certainly from the opening here, this is a monster horror film.
Yeah, you know, we talked about the 70s a lot. And the one thing the 70s got right was a couple of things, actually. The 70s became more experimental,
yes,
more risky, more, like I just said, commando filmmaking, where big studio execs stood away and let the directors direct.
Exactly.
You know, you have
Where
the
it should be.
Freakins, the Coppolas, the Bormans, all these people. And so that's what makes Jaws, because even if you haven't seen Jaws, or you haven't seen The Exorcist, or if you haven't seen Apocalypse Now, all these films in the 70s, and I'm only giving you a couple here, even if you haven't seen these films, you know about the shark attack. You know about the pea soup exorcist throw-up scene. You know about the little boy in the mask in Halloween. You'll know about the helicopter raid in Apocalypse Now. They're all iconic scenes.
100%.
A lot of cinema today, you don't get that anymore.
The
And
reason
it's
being,
disappointing.
well, several reasons actually. One of them, what you just suggested, and that the movie studio execs aren't prepared to take risks or have a sort of maverick director out there. They're always wanting to rein him in and call the shots, that type of thing. So I've no doubt there are perhaps the next Spielberg or Friedkins or whatever out there, but they've never been given a chance because of essentially the studios being, overly zealous with their control. Again, it goes back to, you mentioned earlier as well about the Marvel type films where it's just pumping out stuff. These just studio sort of conveyor belt type films, and there's no actual, there's no art or craft to it essentially. Whereas these guys, the likes of Spielberg, De Palma, Carpenter, Friedkin, all the rest, they were actual proper artists with balls who were, prepared to sort of suffer for their art, and their vision. I know I'm getting a bit artsy fartsy here, but it's true.
Well, I think cinema's changing a bit. I do think, and I think that's why horror's made a massive resurgence, and is more appreciated and respected now because A, it makes money, but also because they let the directors direct. I might not be a fan of Robert Eggers. I might be not a fan of Ari Lester. I might not be a fan of their work. I'm not a fan of animated horror, but I can appreciate they're doing what they want to do. There's no studio interference in their work. I can tell you. Maybe that's a bad thing because I don't like the work, but you are seeing more ballsy directors coming out now. Mike Flanagan has a lot of hearsay now, and not hearsay, but he has more carte blanche, as they say, in his work. So yeah, there's a lot of good filmmakers out there. So hopefully we'll get more of this kind of filmmaking rather than. And I think the Marvel is coming to an end here.
I think so.
They're trying to do this big resurgence. I don't think it's going to pull it off. I think people are getting a little.
It's fatigue. People are sick of it.
But let's jump back into Jaws here. Yeah, this opening scene is ultimately still terrifying to this day. And that's what I meant by 70s. It holds to this day. It doesn't lose its effect. It doesn't lose its shock value. You still get something out of it, even how many times I watched this scene. It's just absolutely wonderful.
Yeah. I mean, I would say overall, and I mean, I'm not giving my overall sort of analysis, which I think people sort of know anyway for the two of us, but overall, I would say that pretty much all of Jaws holds up, not just the beginning,
Yeah, no, like I said, I even said that there's no fault in this film. There's just really isn't. We talked about the dialogue, and for years I thought Vaughn was the mayor was such a douche.
He's meant to be.
Technically, he is a douche, but he's got some great lines, and he's not wrong in some of his points.
Well, this is because it's well written.
There's a great scene where Brody's told that it was a shark attack, and then the doctor goes back. We cancel on that, and from the mayor says, "No, it could have been the boat."
Yeah.
Wait a minute. And because he's feeling the pressure of the mayor.
Exactly.
This great line that Vaughn gives. When they're on the ferry, and he's trying to convince him, do not close the beach for something that we don't even know is a shark attack, which he isn't wrong if it isn't a shark attack.
He also says that he's got.
But he says, let me finish real quick. He says, you don't understand, Brody. You yell barracuda where people are swimming. They look around. What's going on? But you yell shark. We've got a panic on our hands on the 4th of July.
Yeah.
And I love that fucking line.
Yeah.
I just, and the funny thing is, he has some of the best lines in the film, Vaughn.
Yeah, and his argument is that, he's looking out for the town and the townsfolk. Now, with the character, I think he's more sort of self-centered than that, where it's, his ego, it's about himself. But there's still that argument there, and, the conflict here, it's played so very well. And Vaughn is great in the role. He's perfect for it, actually.
Yes. Yeah. Well, you mean Murray Hamilton who played him. Vaughn's the character.
Sorry, that's what I mean. Yeah, of course.
Yeah, Murray Hamilton was always played a dick well.
Yes, yeah. That sort of
Um,
smarmy type, know-it-all sort of bureaucrat.
Well, he decides to close the beach, as we know, and then we get the next iconic death,
Yes.
the Kittner boy. Wow. Again, copy and paste what I said in the beginning with Christy. This scene is terrifying. And you see it from a distance, and you can see the boy's hands flaying in the air and the raft and the fins of the shark as they're wrestling, and the blue of the water becoming red. And
especially because it's a kid as well.
Yeah, it makes it even worse. They shot a scene where you see the shark just engulf the kid, but he pulled back, and I believe the shark didn't work. So that's also another reason they cut it. But you didn't need it. This is a terrifying scene.
Yeah, I think as well it's so powerful because, it's a kid, essentially, and it's pretty devastating and harrowing.
Yeah, no, it is. I mean, and so subtly done.
Oh, it's very well handled and directed.
And I mean, this is Spielberg at his best. Wow. I love the introduction of Quint. I can't stand nails on the chalkboard. And you're supposed to pretty much hate this character. And it's a great introduction, kind of him putting his nails on the chalkboard because you're already going to hate him.
He's going to grate on you. Yeah.
I'll find him for 3, but I'll find him and catch him and kill him for 10.
Yeah, he demands and later on he demands a TV and all sorts. Yeah, he's just right. Yeah.
All the beer you can drink, whatever it was.
I would say, for me anyway, one of the most powerful scenes emotionally for the whole film is coming up soon.
Yeah, we'll talk about that. We're not there yet.
Yeah.
I know what you're talking about. There's nothing I noticed, which I never caught. So he's reading through this book of sharks during the first half of this movie, and there's a shot where he sees it's a real photographs of people who got eaten or people who've gotten limbs, bitten off and shit.
Yes. But
he turns the page and there's a shark with the oxygen tank in its mouth.
Right. Oh, yeah, right. Yes, it's drawn, isn't it? It's not actually...
No, it's an actual picture.
Is it right? Yes, so that's where it's foreshadowing.
So, yeah, exactly. I never caught that. I've never caught researching the film a little bit. I had to be spoon-fed it, and I didn't catch it at all.
Well, there's a couple of bits here as well where he's reading the book, and the wife Ellen, he's shouting at his kids to come back in because he's worried about them being out in the water, and she's like, "I'll just leave them alone." And then she glances at the book, and then straight away after glancing at the book and seeing the shark, she says, "Boys, get in!" So it's just really well played, subtly done.
Yeah, it's just, and that's the whole film. It's this quick little banter, quick one. There's no long, drawn out dialogue.
Yeah. Apart from Quint's monologue later on, which is superb.
Yeah, that's fucking powerful. That's what I meant. Where he should be nominated.
Yes,
because that's where he lets his vulnerabilities out.
And apparently, a lot of that was ad lib. We'll get to it, but yeah.
I love the introduction of Hooper. And everything's chaos. They're offering this, $3,000. So all these assholes from the East Coast are coming in, overloading boats, and Hooper's just trying to control everything. And this is where we're introduced to Richard Dreyfuss' character Hooper. And I just love that you meet him during all this chaos.
Yes.
And again, the chemistry between him and Roy Scheider is wonderful. They hit it off right away. It's rat-tat-tat, which I like to use a lot when the dialogue flows so smooth and you believe every line they're saying. This scene completely pulls it off to introduce. And then when they do catch the shark, they catch a tiger shark is what they catch. And there's a great scene where, again, all chaos. People are all, congratulations. You got Mayor Vaughn being
the townsfolk
being all badass and blah, blah, blah. And during all this cheering and Hooper just goes, "Listen, it might be the shark. It could be the shark. It most likely is the shark." And he goes, the tiger shark is not rare. Is rare for these waters. It's a man eater. It probably is a shark. But the fact is that bite radius does not match what was on the woman.
Yeah.
And then everything quiets down.
I would add.
I just love the way that was presented.
Yeah, no, agree. But I would add as well, while Quint is set up as an irritating character, I actually find personally Hooper to be much more irritating than Quint. Quint's no nonsense, whereas Hooper he's very smug and irritating. Maybe it's Dreyfus, because he could be a bit like that. I've seen him in interviews and stuff. So I just think,
what?
Yeah, no, there is a sort of, like, yes, with Hooper, the character, certainly, there is a smug, know-it-all sort of, I'm a scientist, I know everything type attitude about him.
No, that's not fair. Because he respects what Quint's rules when he's on that boat.
Oh, they come to respect each other.
The whole point is he's more modern, comes from money,
yes.
He's modern, but he knows his shit, where Quint's old school, hands-on, blue-collar.
But he is still quite smug.
I don't think he is.
Oh, yes, to me.
At all. I didn't get that at all. No. Quint is being smug.
But I would say that the two of them, despite their differences, and there's a generational difference, which you said as well, again, down to the writing, great writing, they come to have a mutual respect for each other by the end.
Yeah, you had to have that. That's exactly the writing. You had to have that conflict between those two. Because that'd be boring.
Yeah.
But yeah, and then when he wants to cut the shark open, and that's where Vaughn goes, you think I'm going to let you cut open that shark and have the Kittner boy?
And he's obviously lying. So he has, to cover us, because he's now doubting that after what Hooper said, that if it is the shark that killed the two, the young girl and the kid, he's now doubting after what Hooper says. So that's why he says, you're not cutting it open, in case he's then proved wrong in front of the townsfolk.
Yeah, because the digestive system of the shark's 24 hours. You cut the thing open, he's like, I'm not going to have the Kittner boy falling off on the dock.
Yeah.
Parts of the Kittner boy. And then the minute he says that, Brody walks away, and there's the scene you were probably about to talk about.
Yes, exactly.
The scene,
with the mother.
Even though she has a very small part, it's a very effective part, and that's Lee Fierro, who plays Mrs. Kittner.
Very powerful scene.
All she says is, "I heard you heard about the shark. You still kept the beaches open," and she just slaps him.
Yes, and then after it, I think a trooper says to Brody, you didn't deserve that. Somebody says to Brody, you didn't deserve that. He goes, no, she was right. Just a greatly played line, and just a great character moment for Brody. Says, no, she was right. Where he's prepared to take the blame, Well, not that he's prepared to take the blame, he does blame himself,
When they figure out it's not the shark after they cut it open, which is another, throwing out stuff in his stomach, and there's a license plate
and stuff.
Yeah. But so they're trying to tell Vaughn, okay, there's a shark out there. We need to, step it up. Because didn't they? This is before. No, wait.
Yeah, this is before they've hired Quint.
Yeah, but this is when. Sorry, I'm getting. It's when after they cut the shark open, they take their super. He takes his super boat out.
Yes,
and this is where you meet Ben Gardner. This great jump scare in the film with his head.
And that scared the shit out of me as a small kid watching this for the first time with the head. There's two scenes that absolutely are embedded in my basically mind since I was a very small kid watching this. There's this, and spoiler alert, Quint's death later on. Not the shark itself, but the bobbing head that comes out of the boat, and later on Quint's death. Totally, they've always stuck out in my mind, and terrified, scared the shit out of me as a kid.
Because this happened with the Ben Gardner head, they go back to Vaughn. Listen, Ben Gardner's dead. He's been eaten by a fucking shark. Oh, where's your so-called tooth you had? I dropped it. Yep. Oh, convenient. So finally, Vaughn gives in and goes, listen, no matter what happens, we're opening tomorrow on 4th of July. We're not closing down the whole scene's very funny. And Hooper's going mad of laughter because this guy's so ignorant. And he goes, you do anything you want. I don't care. But these beaches are open the next day. So we cut to, and this is the humor of the film. It's, you see 4th of July, all these people coming off the boats, and they're running around with their families, and the beaches are packed.
Yes.
But at the same time, You got cops, you got the towers, you got the cops, and you got big people patrolling the waters. And Vaughn's looking around and he sees the place is packed. He's got a big smile on his face, the greedy bastard.
Yeah, I know that.
He looks up and he sees these low helicopters flying over. And you can hear him going, son of a bitch.
You know?
Because once he said, spend whatever you need to keep the beaches safe, but we're opening. So it's just kind of, it's coming back at him. He's like, son of a bitch. He really
well,
did
Vaughn is most definitely the sort of politician that would be skimming money and, for himself, that type of thing. But also, I love where he's like trying to basically browbeat like some of the townsfolk to get into the water. He's going to go in for a swim, that type of thing, Why not in swimming?
I mean, the movie is so well paced. It's 2 hours, like 7 minutes long. And it is amazing. They just, it's the perfect timing when to put, okay, we're getting a little dull now. Let's put another shark attack in. He times everything perfectly.
Yeah.
And the scene when you got the 2 fake brats, he made me do it.
I love that scene. And I'll tell you why. Because that is the sort of shit I would have done when I was a kid,
Yeah, I can see it, you sick fuck.
But it's really well played, obviously.
But the whole thing is
messing about.
Yeah, the whole thing's a never cry wolf kind of moment here.
Yep.
So when a lady who's in the pond area, which is a side section of the ocean, and that's where, so she's screaming, shark, 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 and everyone's like, oh, whatever, we're not going through this again. Brody, his wife, Ellen, comes up to him and goes, you sent Michael to the pond with his boat. And this is a wonderful shot. All it is Brody getting faster and faster and faster running to the pond.
Yep.
And they accompany that with John Williams' score. But instead of this time being in the shark getting the music, it's Brody as he's getting faster and faster to the pond with the Jaw score. It's an awesome transition from going from the shark to using that music to using it for Brody. Really cool.
Rewatching this for the podcast, and I know we watched it not that long ago in the cinema as well. But with John Williams' score, the famous, Jaws score, it's actually, although it's so iconic and stuff, it's actually restrained in terms of they don't use it that much throughout the film. I think maybe it was just in my head. I thought that it was used a lot more within the film. But whenever it is used, it's obviously used very, very effectively and works great. Yes, going back to the shots of Brody as well, there are some other great shots of Brody on the beach. That one where it's like zooming into him, zooming into his face.
That's a very Hitchcock move.
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. And then the famous one, you can actually, it's on my 4K disc. It's the cut scene where the boatman who's helping the kids, he's one who gets his leg bitten off.
Yep.
And we just see the leg fall down and him being pulled underneath the boat. There's actually, you can see it, you can Google it, I believe it's on YouTube, the actual scene they did film where he's still in the shark's mouth. And the scene where you see Michael who's frozen in water, they cut that, then they cut away from there. Like the guy said, the shark moved away from him. But that's not what happened. The man is in the shark's mouth and grabs the kid out of fear. And now the guy is in the shark's mouth and he's holding on to Michael at the same time.
I didn't know that.
And you see them in the shot, and you see him dragging Michael with him. That's why Michael is more petrified and terrified, because that's what happened to him.
And also what adds to the tension, I didn't know that, by the way. I'll have to
Spielberg says it was too much.
Yeah.
It was, I want to be more. And he was right. It still works. You didn't need it. Especially another child in peril. You didn't want to have to see that again.
Well, what also works for this scene too is that it happens in the part of the beach, the sea, where they've been told before that it's too shallow for the shark to come to. It's like a safe zone, but it's not really.
It's the pond. That's why they call it.
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah. Now, this is a scene I really enjoyed. And we talk about arcs a lot, and he gets the best one. That's our boy, Vaughn. It's a great scene. It's in the hospital. They're checking on Michael, make sure he's okay. And Vaughn has lost it now. He's mumbling. He's ridden of guilt at this point. And his performance is really, really good here. And there's a line where he's just kind of mumbling. He's like, you're going to pay Quint all that money, right? You're going to pay him the 10,000. I don't care what it costs. You're going to pay him. And Murray just stops during all the chaos, and he's blubbering whatever he's saying because, like I said, he's shocked or whatever's going on. But he stops and he says, he tells Brody, my kids were on that beach too.
Yes.
And right there, it kind of humanized him a little bit.
It's a realization. He sort of eventually comes, and I believe it's the last time the character's even in the film. So he goes to sort of full journey with his arc of realizing that, yes, I've been a complete dick this whole time, and it could have cost the life of, well, it has cost the life of a couple of kids, but it could have cost the life of his own kids.
Exactly. And that
through his greed and selfishness.
And this is where we're in the sea now. Half the film's pretty much in the sea. It's what I like to call a surf and turf movie.
Yeah.
That's a good one. So, yeah, the second act is now going to be on the boat with Quint and everyone. The chemistry between these guys is so fun.
Superb.
It is. You can't. There's
it makes the
one
film
of the best
for me.
shots. One of the best shots in the film. It's so simple, but it's so creepy. And they're just talking, shooting the shit, and they cut to it's a quiet scene, and Quint's in there eating. He's always eating these little crackers, whatever they are.
Yeah,
and he's eating away, and then we have this camera shot, and the camera shot is a big close up of the fishing pole and him behind it, and then we hear a click, and it's the fishing the rod moving, and he sees it, and he slowly starts strapping himself in as the other guys are doing their thing. They don't know what's happening.
That's right. Yeah,
and he's getting ready for a showdown. Pretty much is what he's doing with the shark. It is such a great scene, and then boom, the chase is on.
Yeah. I also love how Brody, despite basically, well, he's a sheriff, he's not actually a lifeguard, but despite being, his patch being a beach, he doesn't like the water, and he doesn't like, the sea and being in the water. So, he has to come to terms with all that. And again, Roy Schneider is brilliant at playing that, that fear, and he's great throughout. But, he's really good at sort of playing that aspect of it.
When we first get the major look at the shark, when he's throwing the chum bait in the thing, and he's bitching about it. Why don't you come here and shovel this shit for a while? And then you see the shark pop up. And when he goes backwards, of course, one of the most famous lines of all time is, "You're going to need a bigger boat."
Yep.
Which was improvised.
Was it? I didn't know that was improvised.
Yeah. And he found that out. He improvised it, and they decided to keep it in. Now, a lot of people think we need a bigger boat. It's not. It's always been you're going to need a bigger boat.
Yeah.
And the rest of the movie is kind of funny because he's always bringing that up. He's like, "What we call the Coast Guard so they can bring us a bigger boat."
I love when Quint
he's always peppering that in.
Well, Quint's sort of drunkenness and sort of vanity and arrogance as well. There's one time wherever he's trying to ring through to get the Coast Guard to come out, and Quint literally busts up the phone they have on the boat.
Yeah, I don't get that. Why do you do that?
Arrogance, pride, because and probably a bit drunk as well, because he, this is my game. If the Coast Guard had to come out, it would have been an admission of defeat by Quint, at least in his head. Where this was his show, he was the man, and he was going to catch this shark. It's hubris, essentially, and it kills him, So that's why he does that. Also, probably he was pissed out of his fucking loaf as well. Was he added to it?
Yeah. You don't know how much of the stuff is improv.
I would say a lot of it, and not just the stuff we know about.
I love the barrel scene, and the great thing about the barrel scene, again, rewatching it so many times, you understand why they emphasize especially yellow barrels, to keep track of them.
Yes.
But it was a way for the audience to know, like John Williams, the music score, was part of the shark at this point, right?
Exactly.
Now the barrels are part of the shark
as well.
So you keep the audience knowing there's something there. There's something there. And that's why the emphasis on the barrels, which is wonderful. There's also a couple of really nice shots with Quint. And it's almost like they're playing off where he's Quint the villain, because there's two shots, pretty much mirror image. One is where he's up in the crow's nest and he's looking down at Brody and he's bitching about something. Can't remember what it was.
Mm-hmm.
But when you look up from the crow's nest, all we see is a shadow figure. We don't see his face. We just see a shadow of a man sitting in the crow's nest. And you know that shadow's just staring down at Brody.
Yep.
And then there's a similar shot where Quint is in the sun. It's the sunset. It's a sunset shot, and he's in the tip of the boat, leaning back and holding the spear gun or whatever he's holding, and they're looking at him, and he's again shadowed all in black.
Yep.
Because what he does with the radio, the things he does are the reason why this boat sinks.
Yeah, it costs him his life.
Yeah, he's the one who fucked this up. Because you talked about Hooper, he's there. I think it's reversed, man. I think he's the problem. I think because there's a great shot where he's making fun of Hooper the whole time about using technology. I got a cage and I got this and this and this. But at the end, Quint missed defeat.
No,
he turns to him and goes, "How does this cage thing work?"
No, Hooper is right. Yes, and like you say, Quint eventually admits it later on, and Hooper is right. But the problem with Hooper is he's smug about it, and he knows he's right, so he's just a bit sort of smug. And so in a way, you're sort of rooting for Quint, because he's sort of old school, and he's a larger than life character. But as even Quint says himself, that Hooper's the sort of smug little college boy that comes from money. But Hooper is right, and he's proved to be right, and even Quint admits it later on.
Yeah. By accepting the needle thing, the jabbing, the whatever it was, the spear idea. One of the best scenes is where he humanizes Quint a bit, where he talks about the USS Indianapolis.
Yep.
Real quick, you guys don't know this story. The USS Indianapolis
it carried the Hiroshima bomb.
Was sunk in the Philippine Sea by a Japanese submarine in 1945. Approximately 880 sailors, I think it was, survived the sinking, but they were in the water for a few days. Only 316 actually were survived.
The rest were
and a lot of them was just due to dehydration, overexposed to the sun, and shark attacks, which he talks about in the film. There's a movie about it, actually. I believe our boy Nicolas Cage is in it.
I'm not too sure. I don't know.
Pretty sure.
Yeah.
But there's another version of it too. But that whole scene when they're talking about sharing their scars, it's funny. They're talking about their scars. Yeah. They're having a good laugh. And Brody's looking at his body. He doesn't have any scars. And they're exchanging, war stories, having a good time. And then he drops the bomb that he was part of the USS Indianapolis. And he tells the story. And he sells it so well. And that's the scene where I think the Academy overlooked him.
Yeah, totally.
He really should have been on.
And apparently Robert Shaw, this scene was written differently before, and they couldn't get it to work. It just wasn't working out. But apparently the scene that they did use, not quite improvised by Robert Shaw. He was also apparently blind drunk when he did it. But apparently he wrote the scene that they decided, the version of it that they decided to go with, because it was the only one that worked. And boy, does it work. It's an iconic cinematic scene.
Yeah, it's definitely. Yeah. And then when they're all wasted, it's like the shark knows. Okay, Bruce is down there under the water.
There is that suggestion that the shark's intelligent. I know later on in the sequels it gets preposterous, but yeah.
Yeah. They're wasted. Now's my time to hit. But because Quint is so wasted at this point, and the whole team kind of is, the shark takes advantage of it, I guess.
Because it's a smart shark, yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, he's like, these drunken bastards, I got him now.
Again, the scene of Quint's death traumatized me. Not traumatized me, but in a good way. It just stuck out in my mind so much. But especially the part whenever the shark's eating him and he vomits his own blood. For some reason, that just really sort of freaked me out, but in a cool, sort of blown away way as a kid.
Yeah, we're not talking about that scene.
I know, but it's coming up, so we are. It's all part of this boat scene. this finale.
No. All right, okay.
And we're talking about Quint.
Yeah. Well, the minute the shark hits the boat and it penetrates the boat actually, and it starts to sink at this point
Yes.
slowly. There's a after all the arguments that we've had on the boat and some of the dark stories they were telling on the boat, there's a moment finally with Brody, especially, has a big smile on his face because there's playful music by John Williams in the background. It's like boys and their toys. And all they see, they got the shark and they tag the shark and they can see the barrels and they're just impressed at how fast the shark is. And it puts a smile on Brody's and Hooper's face that they're just amazed at this animal. At this point, there's that one moment where they're just let their guard down and they just are just like, wow.
Well, especially Hooper.
Well, I say more Brody because he's scared of the fucking thing. He doesn't want to go in the first place. He hates water. So it's really the one time you see him he's pretty much just amazed of what they're seeing and what they're up against.
Mm-hmm.
And there's even a funny scene where after they lose the shark, they think it's under the boat or something, whatever. And all of a sudden the boat starts moving. It's like, what? Fuck, the shark's still on us.
Yeah.
Oh, it's just so fun. And again, never see the shark.
No, and again, as Spielberg has been quoted as saying, the shark malfunctioning so much was a godsend because they had to use it as little as possible, and it works not just with the score and the stuff with John Williams, but in so many other ways that we've just discussed.
The death of Quint's tough watch.
Powerful.
It's the most graphic of all of them.
But he had to die.
Yeah.
He had to die.
He caused some of this ruckus. So
Hubris.
I mean, the end game was when Hooper yells at him, stop putting pressure on the throttle. Stop doing it. You're going to blow the boat. And Quint just got hate. I think it wasn't that he was arrogant. I think he was going to have some young, rich Harvard kid tell him how to run his boat.
It's arrogance. Yeah.
Well, I guess it would be arrogance, I suppose.
Yeah.
But and then obviously the boat pretty much goes on fire and the engine goes, and that's where he gets pretty much.
His arrogance costs him his life. If he had have swallowed, a bitter pill of pride and let Hooper run the show, he would have survived it. Whereas Brody, even though Brody's like the main character and the main star, when it comes to being out in the ocean and the boat, he's a novice. He's a dipshit because he's a New York street cop. He's not a sailor.
Oh, I know. Yeah. And his death with Quint's death, I think why it's tougher to watch. Yeah, you got the blood. Yeah, you get to see something because you can see the moment where the shark presses down his teeth into his stomach.
Yeah,
and you can hear him screaming at that point. And then the blood comes out. I think it's because his scream is so echoing, just like we had with Chrissy's death in the beginning. But this time, you have Chrissy, a vulnerable naked woman in the ocean, drunk. You're gonna feel for her right away because of that. But here you got Quint, who's master of the ocean, submariner guy, badass, and he's screaming like she was in the beginning.
Because he's no match for the shark either, the great white.
It's just, and it is tough because you love to hate him.
Yeah.
The kind of character he was.
I wouldn't even say hated him. I just think he's just a great character,
Yeah. And the whole famous smile, you son of a bitch.
Yeah, I finally got him. Yeah. It finally, after all those, years since the Indianapolis and escaping the sharks, they finally caught up with him. But it's his own fault as well.
Yeah. But yeah, my boy blows up the shark.
Yeah. After, I would say, which is I find it quite a claustrophobic scene when Hooper goes into the water in that cage thing. And I would never do that in a million years.
You know what? I thought the cage scene was kind of stupid. I found a flaw.
Right, there you go.
There. I found something I didn't like. I thought I think it was just to get him out of there.
Let's get
him out of there, put him in the cage.
Plot device, possibly. But I would say that I don't like it for different reasons, and that it's claustrophobic. I would never in a million years do that in real life. I wouldn't even go deep sea diving. Are you mental? No fucking way. Man,
I'd fight him.
Man does not belong in the ocean.
Well, I'd be in there. I'll be in there.
Would you?
Get ready.
Fuck.
Yeah, I'll be kicking some ass.
You'd be like the kid that gets it.
Well, it'd be the most boring Jaws movie ever because it'd be like, God, that guy's kicking everyone's ass. And that shark's face in. Oh, what a great movie.
No, if it was me, it would be like, Trevor, do you want to go into the water? No. And then at the end, shortest Jaws film ever.
We just chuck you in as chum bait.
I get
All right,
a
Trevor.
big bone or something. Yeah.
Yeah, and then Hooper.
Yes, comes back.
Brody paddle back to safety. Yes, credits roll.
It's a classic, and I would say 50 years on, it still stands up.
Nothing will beat Jaws. I just can't. There's some good. We're gonna do Shark Month. It's gonna be fun because there's some really good ones out there. They always say Jaws on. Everyone's comparing themselves to Jaws. There's one that I really like, and I'll put my cards on the table, Deep Blue Sea, that I really fucking enjoy.
And was that out around the time that Cameron released The Abyss?
No, that was Deep Blue Sea is like 2000.
Right, yeah.
The Abyss was
right,
88.
Yeah. Well, sadly, with Shark Month, we can't do the Meg films, but with Jason Statham because we've already done those. So sorry.
Yeah, if anything's gonna touch Jaws, it's gonna be Meg 2.
It's gonna be Jason Statham.
Yeah. We gotta do The Beekeeper. That's by Jason Statham. That's pretty good, right?
I haven't seen The Beekeeper. I've watched the recent one. A Working Man.
Oh, that was terrible. But
The
Beekeeper.
He plays Jason Statham playing a generic role once again. Out for revenge.
Gives a shit. It's Jason Statham. I don't give a fuck.
Don't get me wrong. I like Jason Statham. A fair play to the guy.
Hey, we don't have our Arnies and Stallones anymore from the 80s or our Chuck Norrises. We have Statham now.
Yeah. Go Jason.
Beekeeper. He's the Beekeeper. And then he's doing part 2 right now.
Right. The Beekeeper part 2. What's it called? What's it called? The Wasp Keeper?
I don't know. It's probably like, The Beekeeper 2. And it's probably like
Into the Nest. Yeah.
It's probably like, yeah.
Beyond the Nest. This time it's personal.
Yeah. That's all I've got. Yeah, there's nothing else we can say, guys. This is a masterpiece film. Masterpiece. I've got galore fucking everything in my flat in regards to Jaws. Posters, prints, collectibles, you name it. Jaws is just, I can go watch it again and put a smile on my face and enjoy it and get something out of it. There's a shot I never even seen, and I've seen this movie so many times, and I just caught it, and it's beautiful. And Spielberg says it was by chance we got the shot. And it's where Brody is playing with his gun. It's nighttime, and there's a falling star.
Yes, that's right. Background. Yes. Yeah. Shooting star,
yeah. Beautiful.
Yeah.
And it was because I couldn't believe we got that shot. It was just perfect timing. So there you go. Yeah. Classic. All right, guys. Up next, we were going to do Jaws 2, but we're going to take a little break from Jaws. We don't want to do back-to-back, so we'll get another one in there. Don't know what one yet, but I'm sure it won't be as good as Jaws. I'll tell you that right now, no matter what.
It might be if Jason Statham's in it.
Okay, Jason Statham, I think great if Jason Statham. Well, maybe do Meg 3.
if there was a Meg 3?
Well, I don't see them now. They all done well. Yeah. Listen, I got some news today, I guess. Probably because I write for the magazine. Because lately it's been getting a lot of award nods ever since I jumped on board to Phantasmagoria.
Totally.
Ever since I started writing for them, they seem to be getting a lot more acknowledgments.
Yeah. They know.
Because of, my incredible review of Frogman, I think, really was the icing on the cake. Because it looks like Phantasmagoria magazine has been nominated for an award.
Yes, the British Fantasy Award for Best Magazine Periodical for last year. Obviously, it's for the awards this year, but for work last year. So yes, that does include your review of Frogman, I believe. So yeah, it's one for us all on Phantasmagoria. So very honoured.
Yeah, so that's pretty cool. So congrats to that.
Yep, to us all. Yeah.
There you go. No, we should get a podcast award for like, I don't know, who will host guy.
Yeah, charming, intelligent, and handsome podcast hosts of the year.
Yeah. Yeah. Oh, yeah. That's yeah.
Or not, or not, you know what I mean? Whatever. Dipshits of the year, whatever. It could go either way.
We got a couple of new listeners, I think. Some really massive downloads. I think they're downloading all of our podcasts, which you got to be fucking batshit crazy. Oh, God, we do appreciate it. Don't know the person, but he's from New Jersey. I can see that.
Big hello to New Jersey.
The Sopranos. Aren't they New Jersey?
Yes, I think so. Yeah.
And then somebody from California. So whoever you mystery downloaders are, we do appreciate that. And certainly give us a shout and there's another one. There's a lonely person. Not lonely, like literally lonely. But there's a lone person in Indiana, of all states.
Hello, Indiana. Yes.
Hello, Indiana. So we got Indiana now.
I'm thinking maybe the guy in New Jersey is maybe a gangster, and he's downloaded all of our podcasts to play back to someone as torture. You know,
Yeah.
It's like a new mafia ploy. You know, torture device.
No, please don't play the Nosferatu again, please. Not that one.
Yeah.
If I hear fucking and atmospheric one more time from Trevor, I'm gonna kill myself.
Yeah. So you go. The mafia have developed a new form of torture.
Hey, more downloads.
We don't give a shit.
Like,
We'd sell our soul.
It'd be like, what's that? It's Wonderful Life. Every time a bell rings, an angel kisses wings.
Yeah.
Every time in New Jersey when someone downloads our podcast, somebody dies.
Yeah. Somebody swims with the fishes. There's a bit of a sea pond there as well.
But no, all joking. Thank you, Indiana. Thank you, Jersey. And thank you, California. We appreciate the downloads.
Yep.
And welcome aboard. That's all we've got. Give us a shout out if you want us. You got some recommendations or what you felt about Jaws. And see if we maybe get some more requests, something you'd like us to do. At Frame _podcast on Instagram and, of course, on Facebook. That's all we got. Take care of yourselves. We'll chat soon.